Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Tuesday, June 23rd. It's Alyssa Quorum here. And a lot of the red on the screens today we will get into, and the Nasdaq Composite undercutting a key support level. Joining me now to discuss the action in today's session and a couple of stocks for our radar is my colleague, IBD News Editor, Ed Carson. Ed, great to see you.
Great to see you, Ali. Yeah, I want to take a look at three stocks that are not involved in that sell-off: Guardant Health, Fortinet, and Ezcorp.
All right. Well, I guess that's the reason for looking at them, right? If
Yeah.
they're holding it better than the rest of the market, worth revisiting those. All right. Let's take a look at the major indexes. The NASDAQ composite on the day down 2.2%, closing below the 50-day moving average. Meanwhile, the NASDAQ 100 down 3.3% on the day. So definitely a large cap tech bent to the sell off today. Ed, the S&P 500 in comparison down 1.4% on the day, still above that 50-day moving average. The Dow only down a fraction, some 0.1% here. You can't even really see the sell off in blue chips. Meanwhile, the Russell 2000 small cap index down about 1%, still looking in character there. So with tech bearing the brunt of the selling, Ed, talk to us about what happened today.
Yeah, there was heavy selling overnight. It's interesting because on Monday, the QQQ only fell 0.2%. So, when the NASDAQ fell 1.3, and a lot of that's despite now some of the divergence was SpaceX, which plunged yesterday and was up a little today, but also Google sold off. There was a number of bad mega caps, and the Qs really didn't have a bad day. A lot of really the big winners rallied strongly on Monday. I mean,
Yeah.
it was sort of an unusual divergence. Well, South Korea didn't go along with that. Let's just sort of say like there's that. EWY, I think, is the ETF there. It's dominated by memory chip giants Samsung and SK Hynix, and they both sold off more than 10%. And it was, I think regulators there were trying to rein in margin, how much margin people are using. So that triggered a sell off. But yeah, so there was really heavy losses in AI stocks, which is a complete reversal from yesterday. So yeah, it was just sort of really a really big shift in there, and it's something that investors have to pay attention to. I mean, there are some big losses. We've seen a lot of volatility in several weeks, and you could say, well, okay, there was this SpaceX reason, that reason, but still, the Nasdaq went below its 50-day line. The S&P's almost there, so you could see some real big breaks. There might be some jitters ahead of Micron, so who knows what will happen. We could sell off or rebound tomorrow and then do the opposite after whatever Micron actually does. And obviously, would it be surprising if Micron sold off over several days to the 50-day line? Not really. It's done that in the past. So it's gone on a monster run. And the same goes with all the names in that memory space or these other things. So it's just something to be aware of. What can you tolerate? I mean, the thing is, those who held on have generally been happy. I'm glad I held, I thought that if you held on, I did not own Micron, but if you did, through all these things, you're happy. But at some point you will not be, or or at some point you'll give up when it's down 40%, and it's just, or, kind of thing, or you've taken it. And again, you can take things, you can scale in, scale out, and try to get back in. But I'm just saying is that you have to have a plan, you have to have a strategy. And yeah, it was really ugly action today. Investors have to take note of that. I'm still trying to figure out how much I want to take note of it, and I'll probably think about it tomorrow. If the market bounces it, okay, I took a little bit of action, but I may take more action if the market sells off more, and we're an hour into the trading session tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think, Ed, what you're highlighting is a big question or a big struggle for a lot of active investors in a volatile environment like this. You take that step back, and we've been in a very powerful trend for months. Looking at the SMH here, hitting a new high yesterday, but a bumpy ride along the way, at least in the month of June. So, how much, to your point, do you take some profits off the table, whether that's into strength once you see these big hits, or do you buckle in for the bumpy ride that's ultimately so far been leading higher?
Yeah, and I think another thing is that if you took down your exposure, which was totally understandable a few weeks ago, and now you made some recent buys. Well, a lot of those buys, there's some names we're not going to, but I was just thinking about MaxLinear or Microchip. Those are just a couple of names that just pop off that one could have bought yesterday, and well, they're down a lot. It's one thing to take a
I
7%
won't buy
haircut
the
on a
data.
stock
I
that you're
find
up
it yeah,
150% on. It's another
Right.
so
thing
you
to be
will want
down
to do
right away.
kukumawela.
So
Kuku
you might have to
Mawela.
cut some recent buys, or maybe
Kuku
there's the stocks that are
Mawela.
falling sharply below the 21-day lines, and others are holding up. So you might decide, I don't care about things. I'm not going to worry about my exposure levels, but you should still be taking. You have to follow your
I don't want
rules
this
on individual stocks as well. So there's a lot of different things, and yeah, and part of it is that, do you hold for that long run, or do you go shorter term? Is not necessarily an
Victoria.
easy answer on that.
I
Holding
don't
for
feel
longer
like this,
has really
Victoria.
worked for during this rally,
Because now
and
my
it's
just
just
a
to see
laugh.
if that continues.
Our
Yeah, well, like you
energy now.
said, at
Me
some
and
point it
me and
won't.
limit our
And we
energy
did
now. Me and
on
get energy now. Me
yesterday's
and got
show,
energy.
as well as
Me and
IBD
call it
Live
a
in the morning,
limit.
highlight
Me and
some breaks
Victoria
of upper
limit
channel
this. Me and
lines.
limit
That
our
can be a
cash. Me and
strategy
Simon
that
March.
investors use to take
We
some
better now
off the
before, but now
table.
we don't get much.
Whether it's a new
So
buy, like you're
much.
saying, maybe
Now
cutting
Victoria,
your
I
your
feel like
loss, looking at those levels, knowing what your portfolio risk
I'm
is
back.
for those new buys, and then for